Okay, here we go. Our one lane trim. Separate the two sides. Comb out horizontal sections. Now, when cutting the one length, I'm going to teach you some awesome tricks. 1, have your model standing up. 2, whenever possible, use that base of your comb, because the base of your comb is also a 0-degree line, and that's the line that I intend to cut. So if I have a perfect reference right there where I'm cutting and my eyes are, it's a stronger gauge to make sure that that line is absolutely nailed. Stand in front of what you're cutting. And also you want your eyes level to that shape. But prior to opening and closing your scissors, do a quick verification that the hair that you just combed is to natural fall. So one of the easiest ways to achieve that is after you comb the hair, line up your comb and make sure the strands of hair that you just combed match the strands and the teeth of your comb, because the teeth of your comb, they're all 90-degree lines. So when the strands match up with the teeth, that's a good indicator that you're combing the hair to natural fall. Okay, and don't let the simplicity of a one length mess you up, because a lot of people go in with the intention that a one length is pretty easy. It's easier said than done. When you actually go and nitpick a line, you can always find errors. So that when I go in and I'm cutting my one length, during the technical part, the wet portion of the haircut, I really put a lot of stress and emphasis and pressure on myself to just nail that line. Because once the hair is dry, we have to go back and refine that line. As I'm cutting, I'm always looking at the angle of my shears, the very tips. I have to make sure that they're always at 0 degrees. Also here, I'm constantly checking for symmetry and balance. I'll look at my line from multiple directions and multiple angles. So now as we move to this side area, I'll have my model turn her head to the side, because at this point it's easier for me to really get in there and cut in a square line at natural fall. If her head position was just straight, I would have to maneuver around those shoulders, which is basically, it's a lot more challenging, and I'll probably have to kick in some elevation. And at this point, again, I want a 0-degree line, so elevation is not an option. So just nudging in that line, combing the hair to natural fall, still cutting on the skin, using my comb as a reference. I can place my comb there, line my comb up with the guideline from the back, and just with very little tension, I just go in and nudge in that one length. And just working with details, have your eyes exactly in front of what you're cutting. This is imperative. Continue working in the same manner through the side areas. Again, one lengths, they're all about the details. And you want to get that line super, super, super clean. If there's a reference that you can compete with, like the back of your comb, use it. Okay, so now for the finish. I don't want any excessive root lift. So when the hair is wet, I'll go in and I'm using a lot of tension just to pull that hair straight, sleek, and shiny. As the hair begins to dry, I'll slack off on the tension just a bit, and I'll put more focus on getting that cuticle scale nailed shut. The ideal angle that I want for my nozzle on my paddle brush is 10 to 15 degrees. At that angle, the energy coming out of my dryer is a lot more streamlined to the surface that I'm drying. So I want to get it as tight as possible, and with that angle, I can actually close up the cuticle scales. After the finish, that hair must feel like silk. It must have a glass-like finish, and when you run your fingers through the hair, you want it to feel amazing. So that's the emphasis of this dry. I'm not putting any artificial poof or bevel in it. I'm just getting it nice, smooth, straight, using tension, and at the ends I'm just getting I have to make sure that those cuticle scales are again sealed shut. And as I'm drying, I'm also looking at levels of the color. So when the hair is wet, it's darker. As it gets drier, the color will start to lighten up. So when I see the color actually popping through, then I know, okay, it's time for me to put a lot more emphasis on the angle of my nozzle to hair as opposed to the tension that I'm using. So when the hair is wet, when it's darker, I use a lot of tension. And then as that color starts to pop through the lightness, then I'll slack up on the tension a bit, and I'll put a lot more focus on just getting that cuticle scale shut and making sure the angle of my nozzle really follows the base portion of my paddle brush. So as I dry, I don't like using gigantic arm movements because it's more exhausting. So I'll use my hips or my shoulders, and I'll have my body lean towards the back and lean forward, kind of like if you're on a boat and it's rocking. So I'm using less effort but getting more result. I'm using 20% effort with 80% result, because actually the blow dry is quite exhausting. So I need to conserve my energy, so after the blow dry, I still have enough energy to go and clean my shape at a level of peak performance. So again, know how to conserve your energy. And I'm a minimalist. I always believe that less is more. I love that 80-20 rule. So again, going in with a lot of tension initially. As the color lightens up, I slack off on the tension and I'll start to bevel. And when I start to bevel, that's when I put a lot of emphasis on sealing that cuticle shut. Now that the hair is dry, I'll push the hair around in lots of different directions. I'm feeling for snags. If anything snags, then I know that area I have to go back and refine a little bit more. Okay, so now that we're dry, I'm going back, and my line is pretty clean, but you can always make it cleaner. So here I'm just dusting that shape. I'll clean that line, I'll comb it to natural fall. I'll clean it again, I'll comb it to natural fall. I'll clean it again, and I'll comb it to natural fall. And when I think enough is enough, I go back and I clean it some more. And it's all about the details at this point. Pay close attention to the angle of your shears. Make sure your eye position is right in front of what you're cutting. If your eyes are too high or too below of the line you're cutting, the perspective that you're actually seeing isn't reality. So get your eyes right in front of what you're cutting so you can nail that line. And the more effort you put in when the hair is wet, the faster the refining is. If you, during technically, your cut was off, you're going to spend half a year just refining that line. Okay, so now for the fringe, I'll work on what's pre-existing. So I'll just put in a line just right there in between her eyebrows. And again, my eyes are exactly in front of what I'm cutting. And I work this line little by little. I don't take the entire line at one time. I'll take the first, say, ½ inch, then the next ½ inch, and the next ½ inch, and I'll work my way back and forth. I'm just like rounding off these sides so it doesn't fall too heavy. I don't want to see too much of a corner. Just working in that line, little by little, just with the tips of my shears. And I'm just like, I'll point into that line just to get it to fall a little bit soft. I don't want it falling too heavy. So once the line's clean, then I'll go in and I'll start texturizing just a bit. I'll slide cut here just to get some blend. So my scissors are opening and closing while my fingers move in an upward position. Now this pace has to be consistent, otherwise you'll get gaps in it. So if you haven't worked this technique before, practice it for a while, and then it'll start to kick in organically. Okay, well there we have it. Our Yuki, one length cut. Enjoy.